Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at the investment markets. Certainly volatility has returned with a vengeance to the markets. It's just interesting really as the markets sort of grapple now with sort of various sort of points going through. Obviously you've got a very strong US economy, and that's sort of highlighted by the recent Fed increase in interest rates, and still pointing towards another 3 more for the rest of the year. Against that sort of backdrop, you've got again pretty reasonable earnings. Certainly growth was a little bit sort of lackluster in quarter one, but sort of going forward, most people expect earnings to sort of pick up. Seasonal factors maybe affected the first quarter, weather, etc. We've also got the ongoing sort of potential trade war sort of looming as President Trump sort of comes up with all sorts of tariffs to be imposed on various countries. But then, after making the grand announcement, especially with the steel and aluminum, it then comes out and sort of exempts certain countries and won't impact and won't come into force for 2 to 3 weeks or another month after that, etc., etc. So possibly just using that as maybe a sort of bargaining chip to get some slightly better trade deals for the US, which he certainly feels have been very unfair to the US. Obviously the big player in this is going to be China, and it's just going to be very interesting to see how this sort of plays through. Also, you've got the ongoing sort of issues in the sort of tech sector, which is really quite a high weighting in some of these US indices. They're obviously under a little bit of pressure after the latest sort of data scandal with Facebook. And again, just going to be very interesting to see how that sort of plays through over the next sort of 2 to 3 months. And also, obviously, with this president, there's certain sort of personal issues that are sort of play in the background as well. And again, that just sort of adds to the melting pot and adds a little bit of pressure out there. And I say it's just going to be very interesting to see how this does sort of play through, because potentially there could be some violations of some federal election laws, and that could be pretty damaging for the president. Oil is obviously trading pretty well, around the sort of 65 WTI, Brent's up around 70. And again, just going to be interesting to see if that can sort of hold these levels and then push through over the sort of northern hemisphere summer. Just over a year now until Brexit. Potentially there is a deal on the table, but certainly opposition is mounting in the UK. With a bit of a coalition now of sort of MPs and sort of pressure groups, potentially starting to talk about the possibility of a second referendum, as sort of reality does start to bite now with just 12 months to go before Brexit. Here in New Zealand, we've got a new Reserve Bank governor. Be interesting to see how it plays its dual mandate with not just inflation but an employment component as well. As yet, that hasn't been specified in terms of numbers like the inflation target. It's just sort of sustainable long-term employment. So it's just going to be interesting to see how that sort of plays through. I mean, you could argue that the Reserve Bank has always had that as a sort of unwritten sort of policy as well. It's just really interesting to see how that sort of plays through over the next sort of 12 to 18 months. Also as well, I say just check those KiwiSaver balances. Make sure you've made enough contributions for the to get the maximum tax credit. If you're unsure on what that is, call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles. We'll look forward to speaking to you soon.